Ladies and gentlemen, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq has just hit all-time high, and I've got reason to believe that you'll go higher and higher. And this is one big reason why I want to share everybody. And also for those people who are very afraid that you will crash, I also got answer for you. So please watch on till the end. So today's title is called "The Stock Market is Rocketing All-Time High and Why It's Going Higher." And I would like to share everybody my deepest conviction. As usual, this content is for education entertainment, not financial advice. And let's go. The S&P 500 has hit a high of 6466.58 and is very, very near 6,500, which is the one that's predicted by Tom Lee of Fundstrat by end of the month. He could even hit 6,006 as he predicted on the higher end. The Nasdaq is going to hit 24,000 also, and these are all remarkable numbers. So the main reason why this thing is going up, and I'll explain to you shortly, is because of inflation rate turning benign, and the other non-Max 7 high-tech stocks sectors has now joined in the rally as well. Healthcare and other beaten down sectors have joined in the rally now. There's widening the breadth of the entire stock market rally. Why has the rally continued on and on and on? Well, for a large part, it's because the inflation has moderated. Consumer price inflation has rose 2.7% in July, easing pressure for Federal Reserve. Of course, ideally, they want to hit 2%, that'd be great. But 2.7, that's less than the expectation, and that's good. There's an increased expectation of interest rate cut right now at 95%. In September, the rate cut is likely to happen. And despite all the Trump tariff noise that were going on, the corporate earnings remain very robust, and the AI and technology optimism is driving all the growth stocks higher and higher. And I've told everybody that this AI growth is not a fad, and it is really happening in a big way. And the most important reason, there's a mountain of cash at $7 trillion. They're all sitting in the money market. They're now ready to be deployed into equities. So the stock market has a $7 trillion secret weapon that could boost gain into the year. And that's largely because in the money market, there's $7 trillion sitting there. Now, the money market are things like short-term money deposit, giving very high interest return. But once the Federal Reserve lower this interest rate, these returns are very low, and these people who put money into these places will have to seek their returns elsewhere. And there are very few places they can put their return. And one of the places they can put the return is the ever-rising stock market. More and more people are realizing that, hey, we're missing out this entire wave. Now, in the past, it's okay because the stock market is still giving reasonable return. But now, no longer. So they're going to do something about it. So I think that this is a real $7 trillion secret weapon. So this thing was discovered really by Bank of America. They have an analyst called Savita that actually noted that this $7 trillion in a money market fund could shift into stocks once the interest rates start to fall. And by the way, this is really happening in Singapore and in many parts of the rest of the world, except in US, where interest rates are stubbornly still high. So a massive cash war combined with positive earnings and AI optimism could extend the rally higher and higher and higher. And this is why I believe so. Now, there are a lot of people, including famous analysts, that are saying that, hey, a crash is coming, a crash is coming. The end is near, the bubble is going bigger and bigger and bigger. Let me give you a history of analysts that predicted that stock market is crashing, crashing, crashing. So it started, all the way from 1, 2, I'm sure you can find even longer. These are all famous analysts, economists, columnists, and whatsoever saying that, oh, he predicts 50% unemployment, 90% stock market crash, 100% inflation, prepare for massive stock market meltdown. The next crash will happen by end year, death, whatever, stocks, everything, right? So can you see all these guys are just coming, with, they call it doomsday sayer, or these are, non-stop. And we see a lot of them actually, and these are famous names, okay? And guess what, right? This is a whole history of naysayers, and the stock market maybe corrected somewhat occasionally, but they continue to go up. You just take note of the entire bull market run, right? So I just want to say this, that earlier this year when the US stock market was crashing, everybody was talking bad about US stock market. I wish these people would come out right now, okay, and declare that they're still right. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that, I think if you say long enough that a crash is coming, it ultimately will come. But usually the crash doesn't last forever, and over time you will correct by itself and go from strength to strength. So stock market corrections are very normal. Now let's not get too technical about the term correction, crash, and all this, right? Since 1964, there are 27 more than 10% stock market correction, one in 2.2 years. Now, a lot of people are asking me, so Mr. Lu, when can we buy? Where can you buy? Well, I can't tell when you can buy, but if the history is correct, every 2 years or so, you have a chance to buy. And corrections that are driven by recessions or valuation overblown often result in big crashes of negative 30% or more. These kind of crashes comes a bit rarer, but if they do come, wonderful chance for you to buy if you dare. Now, geopolitical events, war, trade war, and all this kind of thing comes and go very fast, so it's difficult to catch. But these kind of noise are quite common in the midst of the entire climb. So, this represents a lot of opportunity for us. The U.S. stock market that is heavily criticized by many people earlier this year when Donald Trump was just creating chaos has thrived through big crises, right? It has thrived through wars, recession, scandals, and so on. And if you take note, right, 1929, what a massive crash, Great Depression, 1974, oil crash, dot-com bust, financial crisis, and you have got a COVID crash, 2022, great inflation, whatever, like massively amount. And despite all this, it just grow from strength to strength. And clearly, the stock market is a place for people who has got a calm heart, or you just ignore it and just walk through the whole thing, and you tend to reward that can hold the stock through test of time. So clearly, right, let me repeat to everybody again, okay? It needs me to drum into everybody, right? Pick globally diversified broad-based index if you have to invest, like S&P 500, MSCI World Index, blah, 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 blah. There's so many of them, okay? And stay invested through all this market cycle. And some of these cycles could take years. If you buy in a crash you would have benefited. But if you buy in a high, sometimes you have to ride through a long period of time. I'm not a big believer of dollar cost averaging, but the textbook always say that, you want the dollar cost average. If you have to dollar cost average, do not start at the peak like now. Ask yourself, why are you starting now? Is it because you are fearful of the dive and only want the upside? If it is so, then maybe you are not a personality that can go through dollar cost averaging. Now, are there risks in the horizon? Of course, of course. What if the US-China tariff negotiation in 3 months' time turns sour, and then this whole thing will start all over again? The fight between US and China, right? I don't think so, but the risk is always there. Okay. What if the trade war gets more offensive? Some countries decided, enough is now, I'm going to retaliate, right? Well, everything is possible, right? The high US debt level is always an issue. I think that the risk is now less with US now collecting a huge amount of tariff revenue. But it depends how Trump is going to use them all up, okay? And we are always worried that there are black swan event, one-off, unknown things that could happen. And if all this were to happen, then it could suddenly trigger a sell-off or things like that. But I think that, even if all these things happen, you need to be able to just ride through all these fluctuations. So remember, join us for our nightly live stream. Not all the nights, but most of the night, I'll try to do a live stream on the stock market and personal finance. Stay tuned. A lot of people are looking forward to our tickets for AI course. Okay, it'll be launched soon in one of our live stream. It will be most likely this week. So subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss the episode or some of these big events. I'll see you tonight. Bye-bye.